Hello everyone, and welcome back. Today I'll be continuing to read Black Panther, the Young Prince. So let's continue. Chapter 9. Later that day, T'Challa sat with M'Baku, Sheila, and Zeke in the cafeteria. The clatter of trays combined with the activity of hundreds of students made T'Challa's ears ring. So, Sheila began, turning to T'Challa, I heard you were a great fighter, and that you landed Mr. Blevins on his butt. T'Challa swallowed hard. He didn't want people to think he was a bully or a fighter. Humph, M'Baku muttered. I could have done that. T'Challa just went first, that's all. I hate sports, Zeke chimed in. I'd rather read a book. T'Challa grinned. Sheila reached into a brown paper bag and took out a cookie. M'Baku's eyes lit up. Want to try one? Don't do it, warned Zeke. Sheila screwed up her face. Why? Asked M'Baku. Something wrong with it? There's nothing wrong with it, Sheila said. It's totally fine. Yeah, Zeke shot back. If you like gluten-free. T'Challa observed the interaction with curiosity. It still tastes good, Sheila said. What's gluten-free? T'Challa asked. Well, Sheila began, gluten's a protein that's in certain types of wheat and grain, like rye and barley. But if you can't digest that kind of stuff, you can eat foods that don't have it, or find some substitutes. M'Baku looked at the cookie like it had just turned into a toad. Go ahead, Sheila encouraged him. Try it. M'Baku raised the cookie up to the light. After a long moment, he bit into it. T'Challa, Zeke, and Sheila waited. M'Baku nodded. Not bad, he finally said. Sheila looked at Zeke with satisfaction. T'Challa bit into his hamburger. He'd heard that the cafeteria food wasn't very good, but he liked it because it was very different from what he had at home, which was usually vegetables, lean meats, and grains. Here at Southside Middle School, they had hot dogs and hamburgers and lasagna and something called Jell-O, which he loved. Zeke reached in one of his notebooks and pulled out a piece of paper, then slid it across the table. T'Challa picked it up and read, After-school activities, chess club meeting, 4 to 5 p.m., study hall room 101. T'Challa grinned. His father had taught him how to play chess when he was 5 years old. He said it was a great tool to learn patience and strategic thinking. He looked up from the paper. Did you sign up? He asked Zeke. Yeah, Zeke answered, but I'm not that great. He turned to M'Baku. What about you, Marcus? M'Baku slid a spoonful of beans into his mouth. Marcus, T'Challa said, elbowing him. M'Baku raised his head, spoon still to his mouth. Oh, he said, looking at T'Challa. Yes, that's me. What's the question? Sheila and Zeke traded glances. I asked, Zeke said slowly, do you want to join the chess club? No, said M'Baku. I don't think so. I want to try basketball. I saw the Chicago Bulls on TV in Wakanda. T'Challa sucked in a breath. M'Baku eyed him quickly. On TV. Yeah, I saw them on TV, and I want to give it a try. Zeke opened his mouth to speak, but T'Challa turned to the sound of loud voices. A slim, lanky figure approached the table. It was the boy who had stared at him in phys ed after he took down Mr. Blevins. He was the tallest boy T'Challa had ever seen. 2 other boys were with him. One was small and wiry, like a slithering snake. The other was bigger than T'Challa, with muscles that strained beneath his shirt. All 3 of them had one thing in common. They did not have kind eyes, something his father said to always look for in a person. The tall boy sauntered up to T'Challa. He wore low-slung pants tucked into brown boots. A silver ring displaying a skull glinted on his finger. He narrowed his eyes at T'Challa and M'Baku. So you 2 from Africa? He asked, an edge to his voice. T'Challa eyed him. Best remain friendly, he thought. Yes, he said. We're from Kenya. Ever hunt any elephants or kill any tigers? M'Baku smirked. We don't hunt animals for fun, he said. The boy laughed, a deep rumble. His friends behind him followed his lead. Well, what do you do then? He asked. They have hip-hop over there? T'Challa had never heard the words before. What is hip-hop? The group of boys burst into laughter. T'Challa was reminded of hyena howls he'd heard back home. Dude, the tall boy said, you don't know hip-hop? West Side Posse? Killer Crew? T'Challa was still lost. He had no idea what the boy was talking about. They probably listen to more interesting music, Zeke suggested. You know, like African music? The tall boy's eyes shifted to the small figure of Zeke. What up, nerd? Where's your coloring book? Zeke blew a breath through his nostrils. They're graphic novels, he said, staring straight ahead and not meeting the tall boy's eyes. Whatever, the tall boy said. We're out of here. See you around, Africa. He walked away the same way he had come, with a spring in his step and a cocky grin. His friends trailed behind him. No one spoke for a moment. Who was that? T'Challa finally asked. His name's Gemini Jones, Zeke said, and he's a real pain. Sure is, Sheila added. Zeke glanced in the direction of Gemini and his friends at their table, set back way in the corner, away from everyone else. People are afraid of him because he says he's a warlock. A warlock? T'Challa questioned. Yeah, Sheila replied. A male witch. There's no such thing as witches, said M'Baku. Well, said Zeke, I just read a graphic novel called Hex and Rex, and it's all about warlocks. Sheila gave him a withering look. That's called fiction. But the truth is stranger than fiction, Zeke said, and then looking over the tops of his glasses. Dun, dun, dun! Sheila closed her eyes. What about the other guys? T'Challa asked. Who are they? The skinny guy's Deshaun, Sheila said, and the big musclehead dude calls himself, wait for it, Bicep. Bicep? T'Challa echoed. I know, right? Sheila said. M'Baku laughed. I'd keep away from them if I were you guys, Zeke said. They're always picking fights and getting in trouble. But T'Challa wasn't sure about that. He didn't like the way Gemini Jones spoke to him. Who did he think he was? But there was nothing he could do about it. He had to keep his identity secret. He rested his chin in his hands and sighed. So, he said, what is hip-hop anyways? Lunch hour passed quickly. T'Challa returned his tray and headed into the hallway with Zeke, Sheila, and M'Baku. A group of kids stood in a circle in the middle of the hall, staring at the floor. M'Baku pointed. What's going on down there? They walked the few short steps, and T'Challa heard several voices mingled together. What is it? It's freaking creepy, is what it is. Who put it there? T'Challa pushed through the crowd. At first he didn't know what he was looking at, but as he drew closer, it became clearer. It was a bundle of small broken branches, held together by string and placed so that it stood upright, like a tripod for a camera. What in the name of Zeus is that? Zeke asked. Some kind of nest? Sheila ventured. T'Challa stepped forward and bent down to get a closer look. Okay, a booming male voice came out. Move along. T'Challa stood back. A teacher was pushing his way through the throng. The crowd broke up quickly, still murmuring. What do you think it is? M'Baku asked. T'Challa shrugged. Something to do with Halloween? M'Baku shook his head. Maybe. I don't know. But we're in America. There's all kinds of weird stuff over here. T'Challa took another doubtful look at the weird object. Yeah, he said uneasily. I guess so.